In Benny Safdie's The Smashing Machine, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson plays Mark Kerr, a UFC fighter whose painkiller addiction is destroying both his body and his marriage to Dawn, played by Emily Blunt. On paper, this should be a knockout, a gritty A24 sports drama directed by one half of the Safdie brothers, starring one of the biggest movie stars on the planet stepping out of his comfort zone. In reality, it's a frustrating missed opportunity that exposes both Johnson's limitations as a dramatic actor and the dangers of mistaking prestige for substance. When this was announced, I was genuinely excited. Benny Safdie, along with his brother Josh, completely reinvented the anxiety thriller with Good Time in 2017 and Uncut Gems in 2019. These aren't just well-made movies, they're visceral experiences that put you in a chokehold and don't let go. Good Time particularly was a career-defining moment for Robert Pattinson, the kind of transformative performance that made people forget Twilight and see him as a serious actor. That movie, alongside his unhinged work in The Lighthouse, directly led to him landing Batman and established him as one of the most interesting actors of his generation. The Safdies understand how to capture desperation, how to make you feel the walls closing in on someone spiraling. They also have a documentary background that informs their fiction. Their 2013 doc, Lenny Cook, followed a basketball prodigy who was supposed to go straight to the NBA, but flamed out before he ever got there. Like Hoop Dreams, that 1994 masterpiece that followed two Chicago high schoolers over 5 years, showing not just their basketball dreams, but their family's economic struggles, the systemic barriers they face, and the crushing weight of being your family's ticket out. Lenny Cook understood that sports stories are really human stories. They're about class, opportunity, and what happens when the dream dies. So Benny Safdie tackling The Smashing Machine based on the 2002 documentary about MMA fighter Mark Kerr seemed perfect. This is the early days of UFC, before it became a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Fighters were breaking their bodies for pocket change, popping painkillers just to make it through training, and getting chewed up by a system that hadn't figured out how to protect them. There's a real story here about exploitation, about the cost of being a pioneer in a sport that would eventually make other people rich. But here's the problem, and it's a massive one. Dwayne Johnson cannot act his way out of this role. I don't mean he gives a bad performance, I mean he fundamentally cannot transform into someone else. He's one of the biggest box office draws in the world for a reason. He made $270 million worldwide with Black Adam. He's anchored the Fast and Furious franchise. He turned Jumanji into a billion-dollar property. But that success comes from the fact that he plays The Rock in every single movie. He's charismatic, he's physically imposing, he's got great comic timing, and he knows exactly how to use that raised eyebrow and that smile. That works perfectly in big-budget spectacles, where you want a movie star, not a character. But drama requires vulnerability. It requires shedding your persona and becoming someone else entirely. Watch Christian Bale in The Fighter. He dropped 30 pounds to play crackhead boxer Dickie Eklund and completely disappeared into this wiry, twitchy, tragic figure. Watch Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler, where he's not playing a character, he's exercising his own demons about being a washed-up former star. Watch Robert De Niro in Raging Bull, where Jake LaMotta is this animalistic, paranoid, self-destructive force who beats his opponents and his wife with the same brutal efficiency. Johnson tries. He wears prosthetics, a different nose, some facial work, and I guess the idea is to make him look less like The Rock, but it has the opposite effect. It's uncanny, like watching someone wear a Dwayne Johnson mask over Dwayne Johnson's face. And more importantly, the prosthetics can't hide the fact that he's still doing his usual thing. The furrowed brow, the intense stare, the physicality that made him a wrestling superstar. There are two crucial scenes where Kerr has to break down emotionally, where we need to see him completely shattered. In both scenes, Johnson cries, but he literally covers his face. He buries his head in his hands or turns away from the camera. At first, I thought maybe it was a character choice, that Kerr is the kind of guy who can't show emotion, but the more you're watching, you'll know right away, the more it just feels like Johnson himself can't go there. He can't let us see him be pathetic, be broken, be anything other than The Rock. And for a movie that's supposed to be about a man who's being destroyed by his addiction and his inability to process pain, that's a death sentence. The second massive problem is that the script is shockingly thin. This is a 2-hour movie that has maybe 45 minutes of actual story. Mark Kerr is addicted to painkillers. He's volatile and mean to his wife, Dawn. She tries to help him. They fight, sometimes physically. He breaks things. They break up. They get back together. He goes to rehab. He gets out. Nothing changes. He's still addicted. They fight again. He loses a fight. They stay together anyway. Roll credits. Oh, and there's a postscript showing the real Mark Kerr loading groceries into his truck, a reminder that while modern UFC fighters make millions, the pioneers got nothing. What's the point? I'm not asking for a happy ending or a redemption arc, but I am asking for something. Raging Bull is about a man who destroys everything around him, but Scorsese structured it as a rise and fall. We see LaMotta claw his way to the championship, and we watch him lose it all. And finally, we see him as a washed-up nightclub performer doing bad stand-up. There's a trajectory, there's a meaning in the destruction. In The Wrestler, which is probably the closest comparison, Mickey Rourke as Randy the Ram Robinson tries to rebuild his life after a heart attack forces him to retire. He reconnects with his estranged daughter, he tries to start a relationship with a stripper, he gets a humiliating job at a deli counter. Darren Aronofsky and Mickey Rourke make you feel every moment of his desperation because they ground it in specific human details. The way he can't remember a customer's order, the way his daughter flinches when he tries to hug her, the way he sits alone in the back of a van before a match. The movie earns its tragic ending because we're watching him try and fail to escape the only thing he knows how to do. The Smashing Machine has none of that specificity. We never really understand why Kerr is addicted. He just is from the first scene. We never understand what draws him to Dawn or why she stays. She just does. The movie jumps around chronologically, skipping over anything that might build actual drama. He goes to rehab and gets out in what feels like the same scene. There's no texture to their relationship, no small moments that make them feel like real people. There's one scene that kinda works. Kerr's hacking away at an overgrown cactus in their yard, criticizing Dawn for not doing it herself. It's a small, pretty domestic argument, and then she says, "You'd be a good dad," and he explodes. It's the kind of grounded, naturalistic moment that makes you feel like you're watching real people. The movie needs 20 more scenes like that. Instead, it's all just melodramatic fighting and crying with no build-up. And here's what really bothers me, this doesn't feel like a Benny Safdie movie. The Safdies have a very specific style. They cast real people alongside actors. They shoot in real locations with natural light. They let scenes breathe and get messy. Uncut Gems has an electricity to it because you genuinely don't know what's going to happen next. Even the smaller roles feel lived in and real. This is like the slowest movie that a Safdie brother has made. The Smashing Machine feels like a Netflix prestige drama. It's well shot, sure, nice cinematography, good sound design, but it's sterile. Compared to something like Sean Baker's Anora from last year, which drops you into the world of a New York stripper and makes you feel like you're right there with her. Baker shoots in real strip clubs with real strippers in the background. The Safdies used to do that too. Good Time was full of non-actors playing bank tellers and security guards and bus passengers, and it made that movie feel dangerous and unpredictable. This movie just has none of that energy. It feels a bit more focus groups, like A24 hired a director with a brand and told him to play it safe. There's not really a grit or messiness. There's not really moments that feel truly unscripted or raw. It's a movie wearing the costume of a Safdie brothers film without understanding what makes their work special. Ultimately, I think Benny Safdie was drawn to this material because there's an interesting story here about the early UFC, about fighters who pioneered a sport that would eventually leave them behind, but the physical and psychological toll of being a human smashing machine. But he either couldn't crack the script or couldn't get Johnson to go where he needed to go as an actor. And let's be clear, Emily Blunt is fine. She's a good actress doing her best with underwritten material. Ryan Bader, who plays Kerr's best friend and fellow fighter Mark Coleman, actually gives one of the better performances in the movie. He feels real in a way that Dwayne Johnson never does. But this is Johnson's movie. He's in almost every scene, and he simply doesn't have the range to carry a character like this. This isn't an insult to Johnson. He's built an incredible career by understanding exactly what he does well. In Jumanji, his fish-out-of-water charm is perfect. In Fast 5, his intimidating physical presence makes him the ideal antagonist turned ally. He knows how to use his charisma, his size, his timing. Those are real skills, but they're the skills of a movie star, not a great actor. And this role needed someone who could completely transform, who could make us forget we're watching a movie and make us believe we're watching a broken man spiral. There's a reason Johnson doesn't do dramas. He tried a few times, Gridiron Gang back in 2006, Snitch in 2013, and they never connected because he's always still The Rock. He can't shed it. And until he finds a role that's specifically written to harness what he does well within a dramatic context, something that uses his movie star persona as part of the character, he should stick to what works. The Smashing Machine is a disappointing misfire from a talented filmmaker and miscast of a leading man. It's competent, it's watchable, but it is forgettable and it is boring. And that's the worst thing you can say about a movie that's supposed to be about someone unforgettable. So let me know what you guys think of The Smashing Machine, and thank you so much for watching. I hope that whatever the Safdie brothers put out next is pretty good and kind of captures that manic energy they used to have early in their career. I think they're making a movie with Ben Affleck and Megan Thee Stallion. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching.